Welcome to the antiquarium of sinister happenings and odd goings-on.
If you are uncomfortable with the supernatural, the occult, or exploring other realms, I encourage you to stop listening to this immediately.
Find it on Bloody FM and wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everyone. The clip you're about to hear is from one of our exclusive Patreon episodes on a recent horror release, and just like all of our other episodes, it might include major spoilers for said horror release, so don't listen to it if you haven't already seen it. You've officially been warned. And if you'd like to hear the full episode, just head on over to patreon.com/horrorqueers and subscribe today. Without further ado, here is your exclusive Patreon clip.
Well, I'm curious, and I don't want to, take us too far down the garden path here, but would you consider this film campy? Because, we often equate a certain comedic sensibility with camp, although it's not always, a necessity. But this movie does have that sort of larger-than-life, not based in reality element. Do you think it steps into camp at all?
I would argue in the sense of poor taste, maybe, but not in that kind of like naive badness that I think accompanies another segment of that camp factor. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, like some of the things that happen in here are ridiculous, but particularly the way the film treats it. Like I'm thinking even what happens with the corpse when it begins crawling around the morgue. You could have shot that in a different way, or you could have accompanied it with different types of music or something, and it could have been a really wild, zany kind of development. And instead, I think it's actually properly horrifying. So I guess I was just interested because, there is that certain slight veneer of camp sensibility in a lot of Lifetime and Hallmark titles. And I wasn't sure if that's maybe where people were grappling with it. Like, I will say, I think the most, I have to assume it is intentional, the most amusing part of this film for me is the kind of smooth jazz saxophone that plays in the sex scenes. And I do think that raises them up an additional level of just, it does have just a slight little bit of cheese, but I liked that because it felt like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I'm glad you mentioned the saxophone score, though, because the composer for this, Steve Moore, is the same guy that composed Joe Lynch's Mayhem. And when Joe Lynch told him, hey, I'm doing this movie, this guy was like, oh my God, can I please do the score? But Joe Lynch was like, your style isn't really what we're going for with this movie. And he was like, hey, can you please let me take a crack at it? And he sent him a couple tracks, and he was like, where did this come from? Because I guess this guy's in a band named Zombie. It's not their type of music.
Right.
But they specifically single out the saxophone because, as Joe Lynch says, is like when you hear that saxophone, it brings you back to a very specific type and era of film. And he singles out the erotic thrillers that began with, Dressed to Kill and moving on through the 90s. And that's what he was trying to achieve with the tone of that movie with that music.
Oh, I fucking love that because that is what I felt like it was evoking. And as I said, I had to assume that it was purposeful, but I do think that people are misreading it. Like they think that it's a mistake or that it's taking away from the film. Yeah. And to me, that actually elevates it because it feels like a sense of playful knowingness. And, so much of this film is kind of like, hey, are you vibing with me? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? I saw your energy across the room. Like this movie kind of wants to fuck you.
Yes. And honestly, for saxophone, if you want to see a legitimately campy version of saxophone that has an unintentional effect of comedy, go watch Mike Nichols' Wolf, where they incorporate saxophone score into the fight scenes between wolves.
So terrible. Here I thought you were going to say The Room, but yes, we can also go with Wolf.
Well, The Room, okay, that is camp. The Room is camp.
Full on camp. Yes, 100%.
My name's Ava, and the moment the first meteors hit, our world changed. The meteors brought creatures, aliens that are hellbent on destroying our world. My only goal now is to make it from New York to California so I can be with my fiancé, Scott. He's waiting for me.
Come on, Ava. You're gone.
I went to New York with Mark and Jay, my co-workers and close friends. Now we have to work together to survive our cross-country trek. Travel isn't easy, but I will make it home. I will.
End of All Hope is a sci-fi apocalyptic series about 3 friends trying to get across the country during an alien invasion. 5 full seasons are out right now. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Or find us online at bloody.fm.
My name is Caden Arias Quint, but most people know me as Stooge. I'm on my way to the Thera planets, Thera 2 to be exact, where I'll be forced to work at a base known as Crystal Blue. I'm a Lance Corporal in the EDF, and I'm heading to CB as a sort of punishment for a past event.
Oh man, you're in here?
That's Victoria Palmer. She's going too. Hopefully when we get there, we get easy jobs. Although, I heard the worst thing about this place is the boredom. Nothing exciting ever happens this far out in space.
Crystal Blue is a sci-fi series that follows 15 members of the military outpost as they work on air purifier towers and monitor space by the White Line, which separates humans from the alien menace known as the Calamonians. But not long after Palmer and Stooge's arrival, things start to get weird. Mysterious down shuttle and signal interference are just the beginning for the outpost. You can listen to Crystal Blue on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Or find us at bloody.fm.
Welcome to Bloody FM's The Hotel, a horror podcast with new episodes on the 1st and 15th of every month. Each night a guest dies a horrifying and fantastic death in a hotel, that's me, who assumes the shape of anything from a 5-star resort down to a roadside roach motel. Listen on the 1st and 15th of every month on Bloody Disgusting's Bloody FM network, wherever you listen to podcasts.